Shalom, shalom, Yisra Ya'el. Yehonathan Dawid with you here once again, humbly so on what they call the 2nd of January. Now they call it 2022. I just told Yah, I pray Yah, your power be over me as I deliver this word of this revelation from you to us. As knowledge is increasing, this revelation of your covenant to us. A story, a love story. You know, here on Yahweh for Christians, the study, the foundation of transferring this information from me to you, since I've started this over 40 years ago, is with the understanding that the study of any text or scripture divorced from its cultural setting and historical context is insufficient for formulating conclusions in regard to meaning. And when I started studying deeply over 40 years ago, I realized that I was going into roadblocks and lies and the same things that I was learning from the Sunday morning pulpits and then even from the Sabbath day pulpits, and they were not emet, they were not true, because there's no way that you can take English, any language, but right now, I speak English, but any language, and say you're going to give the world truth. You're going to give them truth in that language, and the story that you're using that language in comes from a different culture, a different background, different context, different history, different time period, different people. Everything is different, and you're going to give them so-called truth and knowledge without any connection to where it comes from. You will always end in lies. It cannot be done. This is why I can give you information deeper than what you are getting it from anywhere on Sunday specifically, and even on Shabbat, because you are getting it in the context from where Yahweh gave it to us from. He gave us this story, a love story, from him, and he used flesh, Hebrew flesh, to deliver it to us. And there's no way you can come from the men of angle. They call them angles, which means a deviant. An angle is a deviation, and say they're going to give you the truth. Now, when they tell you straight off the bat that they are deviants, and you're going to rest your soul on a KJV, not if you want truth. Here in Yahweh for Christians, Yonathan Dawid with here, we realize that Ruach HaKodesh is the one that gleans us through all documentation on the revelation of Yahweh Shua HaMashiach. See, everything that you're getting, everything you're studying, you're reading, we all think we studying and reading, we know something. Everything you're getting You're getting it from the Erev Rav. You're not getting it originally. It's not coming from Yahweh's mouth. And it's not even coming from the original Hebrew, Ibarit. It's not coming from Bereshit, Ibarit. So how are you getting it? Whose world is this? This is Hasatan's world. That's why Yahushua has to come and retake it and then give it to us. He is ruling it. Anything you're getting with him having already adulterated it. So it's going to have to take Ruach HaKodesh to get you to glean the truth out of it. It's going to take wisdom, experience, fasting, praying, leaving your wife alone sometime, and getting into this because you have a relationship with Yahushua, you love him. Here's the thing. At Yahweh for Christians, Yahweh we be here once again, realizing you go to the Hebrew word kav, word number 16957. It's deeper than what you realize. It's a mathematical word. In the KJV, they call it line. We know line is a mathematical term. You get two dots, you connect them with a line, you get a mathematical equation. The most simplest of mathematical, actually the simplest is a dot. But then to have a measurement, you have to have two dots. This is going to give you a deeper understanding of scriptures like Psalm 19:4, when Dawid says his line has gone out through all the world and his words to the end of the earth. So Yahweh created the world mathematically first, the line, and with his word second. The line is absolute. The word can be changed. We see all the languages we have now. No one's speaking Lashon HaKodesh. No one's speaking the language of creation. No one. See, here's the thing. The only thing, there's only one thing that is unchanged on this earth from before the sin of Adam and Mother Hawa and after. Only one thing. Everything else has been tainted after they sinned. Everything except one thing, and that is mathematics. Before Adam and Mother Hawa sinned, 1 + 1 = 2. After they sinned, 1 + 1 still equals 2. Math doesn't change, can't change. That's the only thing that he could not adulterate. As such, that means whatever Hasatan operates on, he has to operate off of the unchanging construct, the immutable, unchangeable math that Yahweh has put in place for reality. His line has gone throughout all the earth. That means it is absolute. This is the same thing he said to Eob when he said, hey, did you put the math out on this world? Did you measure it? See, in order to be if there is one word to differentiate Yahweh from everything else, is if you want to use only one word, it is creator. Because Yahweh is the only reality, the only entity that creates. Nothing else can create of itself. Now, we all create. I'm creating a broadcast right now. You can paint, you can draw, you can sing and write, but you're creating off of something that's already there. What Yahweh does, which is unlike anything else, is he can make something out of nothing. Even air has something in it. So even if you use air to do something, you're using a substance. And even then, you are created. So you would have to be totally devoid of Yahweh, extant of him, and then create something. And this is an impossibility. This is why Hasatan always falls short. So he has to start from truth and then adulterate it and try to complicate it and mix it up from there. And it takes Ruach HaKodesh for you to go through it and weed through it. That's why I can confidently use other sources of data besides your KJV, because I know the truth is in there. There is no total, complete truth no matter where you get your information or documentation from, because it's not the language of creation that you're using. Hasatan has to use the line. He has to use the truth, and then he adulterates it. He can't do anything else different. First of all, Haliel is a created thing. He is just a copycat And he's the greatest of all copycats. And he can only copycat to error. He makes error. So you will find yourself learning more and knowing more and understanding more of the revelation of Yahweh, this story he's telling us, if you access yourself with the Dead Sea Scrolls, the Book of Enoch, the Book of Jasher, Jubilees, the Apocrypha, the Apocalypse of Adam, the Apocalypse of Solomon, Haggadah, and so forth. Realize that there is error in those books as well, just like there is in the KJV, from the fourth word God, in the beginning God. So when you do this, and you do this with prayer and fasting, and then having a relationship with Yahweh HaMashiach, you're going to find yourself understanding more of this love story, this revelation that Yahweh has given us of his son, that he used to reconcile us to him, because Yahweh created this world for relationship. The greatest story ever told, which is a love story, started before Bereshit. It started before the beginning. It is from the eternal Ya'ad between Yahweh and Yahweh Shua. Ya'ad is agreement, a covenant. And this covenant, and I'm showing it here on the screen, and when I will download it on the YouTube channel, is the 10th letter of the Hebrew alphabet, and it is the Yod, and it is the symbol, the pictographic symbol of an outstretched arm with an opening hand. I'm the first Hebrew that has dropped this pictographic Ibrit on you about over 4 years ago, maybe 5 years ago. I dropped it on you, the burgeoning Hebrew Israelite world. Nowhere on social media, nowhere was it seen, did I see it from a Hebrew Israelite until I did it. And why? Because it gives you greater understanding of Yahweh's revelation. You see, words and letters can be manipulated, but pictures, you see a picture and you see it. They can't, it's more difficult to change. And the pictures, the pictographic Ibrit is a copy of the stars in Hashemayim. Adam lay on his back and look up in Hashemayim and read the entire Torah as it is written in the stars. The first written of man is the pictographic Ibrit. And this is why I understand it better. And now you, if you follow what Yahweh means by this outstretched arm and this mighty hand. This is Yahweh, the outstretched arm is Yahweh Shua, the branch off of the tree of life, which is Yahweh. The outstretched hand is where the two fruits came from, that Mother Hawa ate from, and then took the other one off and gave it to Adam, her husband. So the plan of redemption, the reconciliation back to Yahweh, started for us right there. But it was planned before the foundation of the world. We're going to track this story through the outstretched arm and also through the robes that Yahweh made. That he made for Adam and his wife. And they are the revelation. The hand, if you look at the pictographic Ibrit, and I have it over my head every week, and you see it when I download this broadcast, and I just showed it to you on this book, The Ancient Hebrew Language and Alphabet by Jeff A. Benner. Why does the hand have just two prongs on it? Those two prongs, that's where the two fruits came from. The outstretched arm, Yahweh says it hundreds of times, how he is leading us and guiding us and revealing to us through an outstretched arm. That's the branch from the tree. And see, if we had written a story, we would say, do not even put the tree of good and evil, Towah Ra, into the garden. Then why have the tree of life? Because the tree of life, if you eat from that, you live eternally. This is why Yahweh had to send a malak over to protect it, keep Adam and Mother Hawa from eating from it, because then they will live eternally in sin, having already eaten from the tree of Towah Ra. But the thing is, so you don't need the tree of life if you're going to live forever anyway, because there is no tree of Towah Ra to eat from to then die. So if you don't have that option, you don't need the tree of life. What is it there for? Yahweh does not do anything for superfluously. Everything has a meaning. Everything has a purpose. Yahweh does not do just something for nothing. He is perfect. He doesn't make things for nothing. So the tree of life is there to live eternally, for you to partake of, to live eternally. You're going to have a right to that tree, and when the earth is remade. So if there's no tree of so-called good and evil, then there's no need for the tree of life. If there's no tree of life, then that means man is made autonomously of the Creator. He doesn't need Yahweh. There's no need for a relationship. What does he need Yahweh for? He's going to live eternally. He's on the earth. He can do his own thing. There's no back and forth. There's no relationship with Yahweh. But Yahweh created the 8th world, the 7th world, this one right here, for the purpose of relationship. The previous 6, there was no relationship. And how was this relationship founded? In Techenol, which is miracle chen, miracle grace. So this is the world of grace. This is the world that Hasatan balked at. He had no problem with the previous 6, where it was ruled in power and judgment, because he was a covering cherub, and everything that Yahweh spoke boomed through him. All the Hashemayim host, all the heavenly hosts, all they see is the covering cherub. The mouth of Yahweh coming through him. He was the oracle. So in faith, they knew that it wasn't Heliel speaking. They knew it was their Creator speaking, but it was through him. He was the most beautiful of all the creation. So they shema Yahweh's voice, but their eyes, ruah, it sees Heliel. He wasn't Hasatan at that time. He was Heliel. So we know that Yahweh says the just will live by faith. Everything has to live by faith. If you don't have faith, that means you have factuality. You see it. You don't need faith for what you see. So heaven has to live by faith also, so they cannot see Yahweh. Once Yahweh circumcised himself of Heliel, and he became Hasatan, and he beheld him like lightning and threw him down to this earth and destroyed the 6th earth, and then Yahweh created the 7th one out of the destroyed 6th earth, which is one we're in now. He is now covered by what we think is some weird looking hideous creatures. They're full of eyes, and they constantly spin and twirl around him. Constantly, they're full of eyes, and they are his covering now. Yahweh hides himself in the darkness. I gave you scriptures of that last week, how he is hidden in darkness. If you can see Yahweh, then faith disappears. And I gave scriptures on that. So, to summarize this greatest story ever told, which is a love story, you can follow it with the rod and also with the cloak. Remember, the first thing ever to die was the 2 creatures that Yahweh killed, and he used their skins to cover up Adam and Mother Hawa. Now, we call them lambs or rams, but there really was a different kind of a creature, because they no longer exist. Yahweh took the male and the female version of it, so that means they no longer exist. So the closest thing that would come to them would be maybe a ram. That might be the closest thing to these creatures, but it was unlike any other creature, because it no longer exists. It is in Hashemayim now, skinless. And he covered the man and he covered the woman with them. So what we have to do is, if we want to get the revelation of this story, follow the tree, follow the branch. Yahweh is the branch off of the tree, and then you follow this coat. Now the branch is easier to follow. We see that it starts off, of course, it's a vine that wraps around the tree of life. You have 2 trees in the middle of the garden, but the vine, the tree of Towah Ra, is wrapped around the tree of life. And then there's an outstretched branch on it. The fruit on the tree of Towah Ra looks just like the fruit of the tree of life at that time, at that month. The tree of life has 12 fruits. It changes every month. But that month that they were in the Garden of Eden, that month when Mother Hawa was deceived, the vine, the tree of Towah Ra, had a similar fruit looking just like the tree of life. And Hasatan offered her the similar fruit and not the exact one, the of life. And of course she was deceived. So you have, they took that, so now you have two empty prongs, and they ate the fruit. Now Adam was not deceived. He was following after this wife. He did not want to lose this one, because this is the one that came from his flesh and bone, as he said, and that's a quote from him. So it went from Adam, and he was given this. Now Yahweh, this tree was taken back up to Hashemayim. Yahweh's not going to have anything tainted in Hashemayim. So that branch fell off and landed to the ground. Yahweh's not going to bring something that Hasatan was sitting on and he had deceived Mother Hawa with. He did not bring that branch back up to heaven. That fell off onto the ground. Yahweh gave that to Adam to till the ground with. At the sweat of his brow, he used that branch that he sinned from to till the ground, and it had two prongs off of it. The one prong for the fruit that he ate from, and one prong from the fruit that Mother Hawa ate from. And he used that to till the ground. From there it went to Noach. Noach used it to help him also measure the ark. He used it to help measure and make the ark, the T-ball. So then it went from Noah to Shem. It was stolen, and then from Shem, it went to, of course, Abraham, Yitzhak, and Jacob. Then from Jacob, he gave it to Yehuda. And then from Yehuda, we know what Yehuda did with it. Going along, he was going to shear his sheep, and he saw Tamar. And not knowing that Tamar disguised herself as a harlot. And Yehuda, trying to get a little piece, getting some booty, gave up this rod to her. And it proved to save her life, because they was going to burn her as a harlot. But when she produced it, he knew that it was him that was the guilty one, and that indeed was evidence against him. So Yehuda, he gets it back, but we know that the 77 souls after the 77 souls went to Egypt. Okay, so the 77 souls went to Egypt, Misraim. Jacob and his family went to after the famine. So now the rod is in Misraim. It's in Egypt. It's in the land of Egypt, the house of bondage. Now, I dropped some good knowledge on you. I think it was last week, maybe 2 weeks ago, on Yitro. I think it was 2 weeks ago. One of the greatest prophets of all time, which people don't realize how great this man was, how mighty he was in his understanding. Moshe knew it. That's why Moshe tried to have him come with him, and he declined, because he knew what was going to happen to the children of Israel. He knew what they were going to do. So we see that Yitro, after I read from Jasher 2 weeks ago, how the Pharaoh had a dream. And Jasher in his dream foretold about the rise of us, of the Hebrews. Now, his wise men, of course, was not going to advise the Pharaoh properly, but Yitro said, listen, you leave those Hebrews alone. And it angered the Pharaoh to the point that Yitro knew his life was in danger. So Yitro escaped from Misraim, but on the way out, he took this rod with him. In his wisdom, Ruach HaKodesh touched him to realize something was special about this rod. He knew that Jacob brought this rod in. So he took this rod with him as he went out to Midian. Now we know the story of Moshe better. Years later, we know Moshe likewise escapes Misraim for his life. And the story goes on, cutting it really short, but he is the one that eventually takes this rod out of the ground. No one else could take this rod out of the ground. Yitro has said, anyone who this rod, by the way, when Yahweh's name is in it, is suspended. It's not written in like etched in wood. It's within the wood and suspended within. Yod He Wah He. His name, his secret name, is in the rod. It's always been in there from the time that was given to Adam to hold the land with. But Yethro was going to give his daughter to any man who will pull this, because when he took it, it stuck him to the garden out in his back of his home. You can read this in Jasher, and I read it to you 2 weeks ago. Now, Moshe, once Yethro had him put in prison, and I go through the story, but anyway, once Moshe comes out of prison, he walks into this garden. He sees this branch sticking in the ground, and he notices Yod He Wah He in it, Yahweh's name in it. So he reaches his hand out and pulls it up like nothing, just like a twig. Yethro knew that this man was chosen and he was special. So from that point on, Moshe and Aharon used that rod for the miracles to bring us out of the house of bondage. Moshe then put it in the tent of meeting, where they made the tent of meeting, and it resided in the tent of meeting. That's where it stayed when we entered the land of the promised land. Shemuel, again, one of the greatest prophets ever, Shemuel, called by El, he gave it when he anointed Dawid, gave it to Dawid when he anointed him at 15 years old. Dawid, even though he was anointed, we know he didn't become king until he was 30. So for 15 years, we know how his life was up and down, running for his life from Saul, and back and forth. He kills Goliath and all that. But he uses this as a sling. Now, the whole story, remember, Hasatan, his whole job is to warp this story, this love story, this story of redemption of Yahweh's outstretched arm and mighty hand that reconciles the fallen creation back to him. This creation was made with Cain, really Techanol, which is miracle grace. This is what Hasatan balked at. His whole job is to bastardize this whole story. He gives you a white Jesus Christ with the long hair and the white skin, and he dresses him up like a Greek. He has him carrying a cross. Everything about the story of Jesus is a whole different story from the story of Yahweh. The entire story, the entire narrative given to us is a lie, including this one about Dawid having a sack and slinging it like a slingshot. He had a slingshot, of course, but it was the rod with the 2 prongs, and his little bag was stretched. He put the stone in the pouch that was attached to the prongs of the rod. That's how he killed Goliath. It was not some bag on his hip and he slung it around and let it go. That's not the slingshot he had. But this same rod, because you read the narrative when Shemuel anointed him, the Ruach HaKodesh descended upon Dawid at that point on. From that point on, he was not just a little teenager shepherd. He slayed a lion and a bear with that rod that he made a slingshot out of. And he also slayed Goliath with it. So Dawid now has this, and once he becomes king once he takes the throne, he was anointed as king at the age of 15. Once he takes the throne at 30, he has that rod placed back into the tent of meeting. There was no built so-called temple at that time. It was still a temporary tent of meeting. So the rod goes back in there. But stepping back again, we know that in our rebellion in the desert, that Moshe had this rod covered with the serpent. And that's a whole story by itself. I gave it, and does not represent Yahweh. That's a lie, and the doctrine is unsound. It represents the seed of Hasatan. But anyway, we know that it was this serpent was wrapped around the rod, and his head nestled between those 2 prongs. The snake's face and head nestled between those 2 prongs. And so that remained on this rod all this time. It never was taken off. It was on there even when Dawid was using it. So, and if you remember, one of the quotes that Goliath had when he said, "You coming to me with sticks?" Well, that was the rod. Now, it's back into the tent of meeting by Dawid. He is now king. He is on the throne. The rod is safely into the tent of meeting with this serpent still around it. So we know that at one of the times, there was at least 2 times that Dawid had to leave his throne and go running and hiding. The last time was when his son Absalom usurped himself as king and was going to actually kill his father. Dawid takes the rod out of the tent of meeting and leaves Yisrael and runs for his life and some of his entourage. This is when he wrote Psalm 23. And he goes up halfway up the Mount of Olives and plants this rod into the Mount of Olives. Now we know this rod was an almond rod. It was an almond tree. But we know when once again Moses and Aaron's role was challenged, that every man, every other elder of each of the tribes had to bring forth their rod. Aaron's rod, this rod here, had the almonds. It was an almond rod. But for some strange reason, it budded olives. It was an almond rod that budded olives. And you wonder, isn't that curious? Well, the menorah has almonds and olives on it. The menorah also represents Yahweh Shua. The menorah has almonds and olives on it. All this means something. Did you ever question it? Ask Yahweh and he will give you knowledge pressed down and running over. Why does the menorah have almonds and olives? How did this Aaron's rod, this almond rod, bud olives? How? Well, here you go, right here. Dawid planted this rod into this almond rod into the Mount of Olives, halfway up. And for 300 years, that's where it stood. And we know, I wasn't even going to read this until this morning. Let's go to the 2 Kings 18, 1-4. I wasn't even going to read this. 2 Kings 18, 1-4. And it's deeper than this. I'm just going to read it briefly. It's very deep, but actually starting in verse 2. He, talking about Hezekiah, was 25 years old when he became king. And he reigned 29 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Abi, the daughter of Zechariah. That right there, I can teach a whole lesson on it. That's deep. First of all, it's very rare that we are told who the mother is by name. And why? Well, part of the reason, and she came from Zechariah. She's the daughter of Zechariah. That's deep. That this king is going to give you his genealogy, his line, mentioning the mother's side. Mentioning the mother's side. That's deep. We got 2 prongs here. You got the father's side, okay? He's from Ahaz, and they're mentioning the mother's side, which is Abi. That's deep. I can go into that, but I don't have time here. Verse 3. And he did what was right in the sight of Yahweh, according to all that his father Dawid had done. That's again deep. Dawid is not his direct father. But see how it says here, his father Dawid. His father is Ahaz. But why are they saying Dawid is his father? Okay, let's read on. In verse 4. He removed the high places and broke the sacred pillars, cut down the wooden images, and broke in pieces the bronze serpent that Moshe had made. For until those days, the children of Israel burned incense to it and called it Nehushtan. Nehushtan means bronze thing. See, so this snake, this serpent was still on there. And for 300 years, and why did he call David the father? Because that's the line. This is, you got to understand, you got to read this thing. And you got to read this thing, understand this thing. The line, this branch, this is the secret. The secret things belong to Yahweh's children and those who believe in him. This is a direct line from David to Hezekiah. And Hezekiah took off this serpent from this rod that was planted in the Mount of Olives, halfway up. And Israel worshipped that thing for 300 years. So now he broke it down. So now once Hezekiah took off this serpent, guess what? 700 years later, that's the tree that Yahweh died on. Isn't that beautiful? See, once that curse was removed, it was able to thrive and grow. This almond tree, it grew. It was an almond rod, and it grew. The tree Yahweh died on was 700 years old. 1 week, a day for every 1,000 years. Don't you think that you need to tell your friends, your neighbors, your family, your preacher to tune in to Yahweh for Christians on Sundays, WFBR 1590, AM 1 to 2 on Sundays? Would you have known that? Did you know that? This tree was 1 week old, 700 years old, a day, 100 years a day. 100 years for each day that Yahweh died on. And who is Yahweh? Ruach HaKodesh. He was full of Ruach HaKodesh. He was the olive on the almond tree. Yahweh was the olive, sweating. As the KJV says drops of blood, sweating Ruach HaKodesh, full of the Ruach HaKodesh in him, sweating this olive promise, this olive. Remember, he is the menorah. The menorah is an almond made of almonds, and it has olives on it. See the connection of the almonds and the olives on the menorah, and also on the tree of promise, and the tree from the garden. It all connects. It goes into a circle. And I wasn't even going to read that 2 Kings 18 until this morning. I was out in the car before coming in here. So you have an almond tree with 3 branches. One for Yahweh, one for the murderer on the left, and one for the murderer on the right. One tree, not 3 crosses. Remember, the whole story has been bastardized and demonized by Hasatan. There was no cross, and especially 3 crosses. Here's the thing, and there's many clues as to how they, first of all, straight up in Acts, we told that he died on the tree. But that there was not a cross and there was not 3 of them. Remember, I think it's John 20. I'm not going to go there, but you can look it up. How the Roman soldier, they were told to go break the legs of these men so they can die before the Shabbat came upon them. So they go and they break the one murderer's legs so he can die quicker. Then they go to the second murderer to break his legs. And then the soldier turns to Yahweh to break his legs. Yahweh had already given up his Ruach. He had already passed away and was already dead. The soldier, seeing that, didn't break Yahweh's legs. He pierced him in his side. Now, think about this. If the narrative is true, we know it is true, that he breaks one murderer's legs, then he goes and breaks the other murderer's legs, and then he goes to break Yahweh's legs. How could that be 3 separate crosses? He would not go to the first cross, break that soldier's legs, walk past Yahweh, and then go to the other side to break his legs, then go back to Yahweh. That tells you right there, they were all in one place at one time. They were all on one tree. Yahweh in the forefront of the tree that faces the temple. Yahweh is on the east, facing west, facing the temple. The 2 thieves were facing north and south. Okay, they're facing north and south. So the Roman soldier goes to one murderer's legs, breaks them, and just goes right to the other one. He's right there next to him and breaks it. And as he just goes around the tree, there's Yahweh. That's the sensible way, the way anyone would do it. They wouldn't break the legs of one man, walk past the second man, go to the third man, break the legs, and then go back to the second man again. That's what they would have to do if there was 3 different crosses. There's another bit of knowledge. I just open my mouth and drop knowledge on Yisrael. Simple things if you just think. If you just think. He did not die on a cross, and it was not 3 separate crosses. It was one tree. Now, this greatest story ever told is a love story. What about the coat? The coat. That is a little bit harder to track. But we know these skins, Yahweh is the first one to kill. He killed these animals to cover up our sin, cover up the man and the woman. Now, these creatures no longer on the earth. Because remember, Yahweh made everything with its kind. Everything was a twin. Everything on the earth was a twin. The male and the female. Every creature. So those creatures were gone. So they were not anything you see on this earth now. They were not any, the simplest, the most closest thing we can say they looked like was maybe the ram, okay? But it was not a ram. Their clothing was unique. So then this clothing goes, once the clothing goes to Noach, just like the rod did. And from Noach it goes to Shem, and from Shem Ham stole it. From Ham Nimrod stole it, because the clothes was special. Anyone wearing them has special wisdom and strength. So this is why it was highly sought after. So Ham steals it from Shem, Nimrod steals it from Ham, Esau steals it from Nimrod. And anyone having this on, they became great hunters, great killers, great leaders. Then from there we know that Yaakov finagled it out of his brother Esau. So Yaakov finagles it out of him, and then he gives it to, and we know what he did with it. We know that he made a special, being genetically superior. He knew that Yusuf was special, and he made it out of a coat of many colors and gave it to his son Yusuf. Now Yusuf, we know what happened. His brothers, our brothers, faked his death, put on the devil's blood. The same word for goat is the same word for the devil, Sayur, and put the goat's blood on it, faking the death. So now Yaakov has the coat. It's now bloodied, and he has it. Now, of course, that goes into Egypt as well. So from there, it's cleaned up, and Yaakov, and the color is cleaned up now. He cleans it up, and he gives it to his son Levi. So it stays in with the priesthood, from Levi to Kohath to Amram to Moshe. So this is how Moshe gets it. So now Moshe, the law, the oracle of Yahweh, is united with the rod and the coat. Moshe has them both. So we know that Yahweh buried Moshe, and no one knows where he is. Yet they keep trying to dig him up and make us keep those 613. But Moshe is buried. So Yahweh now has the coat again. Now we know that the Ishmaelites, because we were so busy looking for the Messiah but not doing it in the right way, the Ishmaelites were studying, and they're very astute and very in studying. They come from Abraham as well. We know that. They're our big brothers. So we know the story how they see the star, and they follow the star to Yahweh. He wasn't a baby at that time. He was a young child at that time. And they bring the gifts, and amongst the gifts is this coat. So this is how Yahweh ends up with this special coat in one piece. You know, Yahweh don't have to sew anything together. It's one piece. So they knew the specialness of it. So they came to give him this coat. And Yahweh, who was a small man anyway when he grew up, about 5'7", 100 pounds, just like the height and the weight of the menorah, which represents Yahweh. Isn't this deep? This love story, this revelation of this love story is beautiful. It's all about relationships. So now Yahweh, who has the coat, he's wearing it, and it's all bloody, just like it was when they put the blood on it when Yusuf had it. This time it's Yahweh's blood, and it's not the blood of a goat. It is not the Satan's blood. It is Yahweh's blood on the coat. And he is on the rod. He is sacrificed on the rod that was from the branch that was wrapped around the tree of life. Hallelujah. 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 Yahweh. For the greatest love story, the greatest story ever told, which is a love story, a story of relationship. planned before the foundation of the world, the Ya'ad, the eternal agreement. Yahweh Shua. Yahweh Shua. You cannot eliminate the tree of good and evil because you eliminate the tree of life. If you eliminate the tree of life, then man stands on his own. Man cannot stand on his own because he was created by Yahweh. Yahweh created man for relationship. Seek Yahweh. Love Yahweh. Ohab Yahweh. Have a relationship with him every day. Wake up singing praises to his name. Shahai him and worship him every day. When you come home, worship him every evening. Give him the two-part sacrifice like you have been taught in the book of Wayekra in Leviticus. Yahweh Shua was all the sacrifices, all the animals. He was the donkey. He was the two goats, the ruddy heifer, the lamb, the turtle doves, the ox. How was he the donkey? Remember, the donkey was the only animal that had to be redeemed by what? A lamb. If you didn't redeem the donkey with the lamb, you had to break his neck. This is deep, and I went into deeper than that. But the two goats, which one was right and which one was wrong? The ruddy heifer that healed everything. Yahweh Shua, when he started his ministry, started healing everybody. The ruddy heifer. The two turtle doves. I gave the deep story of the two turtle doves, how it represents the sanctity of life. Yahweh Shua is represented in the 12 portions of the rebellious son, the adulterous wife, the unfaithful bride. He had to prove himself not to be any of those things. But he had to speak, he had to go through the suffering as having been all three of those things. He is the showbread. He is the menorah. He is the 613. Yahweh Shua HaMashiach. I love this man. Yahweh Shua, I love you. I pray you are blessing me right now to have these words come through this mic to the ears that are there to hear, to receive this as you have given it to me. Yahweh Shua is the X-Man. Everything goes through him. Genesis 28 and 12. Genesis 28 and 12. And it reads, Then he dreamed, talking about Jacob, and behold, a ladder was set up on the earth, and its top reaches down to heaven. And there the Malachim of Elohim were ascending and descending on it. That word ladder is Hebrew word is sulam. That's the only place in the entire Torah, the whole Bible, the whole so-called Old Testament, do you hear that have the word sulam. Today we call it DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid. This is Yahweh saying that he is genetically connected to these people, Hebrew. This is why I tell you, you cannot get truth out of any other language but Ibarit. And because we're not speaking original Ibarit, the language of creation, you're going to have Ruach HaKodesh to get this word, to understand what I'm telling you. And you need Ruach HaKodesh. You need to receive all this knowledge out here and sift through what the Erev Rav is giving you. Now, we need another witness to what I just read in Genesis. So let's go to the so-called New Testament, John 1:51. Yahweh Shua quotes this same scripture I just gave you in John 1:51. And Yahweh Shua speaking himself, quoting what I just read you. He says, Most assuredly I say to you, hereafter you will see heaven open up, and the Malachim of Elohim ascending and descending upon the Son of Man. Yahweh Shua is genetically connected to his image. We are in the 6,000th year of this creation. 6 is the number of man. Right now, Hasatan is strongly, he's been doing it since for over 2,000 years now, trying to recreate Yahweh's image into his image. And he can only do it through the blood. So right now you have him trying to taint the whole world's blood with these shots, with these so-called COVID shots and everything. And you have mankind among you. He taught you in school the theory of evolution, where mankind comes out of the sea and goes into the beach and eventually starts walking. The story of evolution is a true story. I've been telling you that for years. It's a true story for mankind. It's not a true story for man. Man is made after Yahweh's image. Ish is made after Yahweh's image. And right now in this world today, it's just as the days of Noah, where in the days of Noah, you had the world filled with mankind. They were all mixed with giant and demon and fallen angel seed. The only thing untouched was Noah and his wife and his 3 sons. And they came into the ark. Now his 3 sons got married 1 week, 7 days before they went into the ark. So those 3 wives had partial tainted seed. So it came to us right from the ark again. We know that the world, like I said, the world was destroyed. The previous world to this one was destroyed when Yahweh beheld Hasatan like lightning and threw them down into the earth. And the whole earth was now destroyed. It was tohu wa bohu. So Yahweh, the Spirit, hovered over the waters. And out of the waters, he brought the dry land. So the demons are in the water. The demons come out of the water. They came out of the water in this creation. This is why they teach you evolution. How man, they say, comes from the water, and then he evolved into the beach, and then from the beach he eventually learns to walk. Because the mankind does come from the water. The image of Yahweh was created by the dust of the earth. We came from the soil of the earth. Satan's image comes from the sea. So you're going to have, in this day, in this age that we're in now, the image of Yahweh against the image of Hasatan. And we know Yahweh, he said it, that he is genetic to us. He said it in Genesis, and he said it in here in the book of John. It's a genetic. We're made after him. We come from his seed. From him. We are genetic to him. And this is what the word redeemer means. Once again, in English, you can understand that the word redeemer is a genetic word. The Hebrew word is gawal. Hebrew word number 1350. Gawal. It means genetic redeemer. It's the same word he used in Isaiah 44, 1-8 when he talks about bring us back to him. I'm running out of time, so I'm not going to read. Go to Isaiah 44, 1-8. And he is proclaiming his redemption of us, of his seed. Those who are genetically connected to him. Hasatan is busy mixing man with machine. Hydrogen is man and silicon is machine. The closest thing to hydrogen, which is our number 1 ingredient, is silicone. I taught that. So he marries silicone with hydrogen. That's why do you think your smartphones work when you use your thumbprint to touch it? He's mixing man with machine. And we have mankind amongst us right now. There are probably more of them than us right now. But we know that this image, Hasatan has sought to corrupt. And I don't have time to read, but go to 2 Corinthians 4, 4-6. We are being made and molded after Yahweh's image once we learn of him. He is the makers. He is the potter and we are the clay. And I love that sermon Pastor Williams preached yesterday. It was a touching, stirring sermon. And I pray that we will just access ourselves to the knowledge of Yahweh Shua as our Goel, our genetic redeemer. That we are after his image. An image that does not include blood. I'm the one that dropped that on you too. Just to go through some of the scriptures to show you that we were not created with blood. Genesis 2:23. Ezekiel 11:19. Ezekiel 37:6. Jasher 43:28. 1 Corinthians 15:50. We were created with Yahweh breathed life into us. He didn't put blood into us. We got the blood from the tree of Towara. If we eat from the tree of life, we would have had the water in us. The eternal water of life. We didn't get the water of life. But Hasatan is the first one to eat of the blood, and he is bloodthirsty. It's just like getting that first shot of crack. Always seeking after that high. He keeps seeking after that. He is bloodthirsty, and his seed is bloodthirsty. That's why they have no problem killing and multiple killings. This is why in Revelations alone, you have multiple scriptures about how Yahweh is going to put that blood back on them. Revelation 6:12, Revelations 8:7 and 8, Revelation 16:3-6, Revelation 17:6, Revelation 18:24, Revelation 19:2. All about the bloodthirstiness of Satan and his seed. Yahweh's going to give it back to them. They're going to have nothing to drink but blood. Nothing, because they are bloodthirsty. They love it. This is why Dawid says, "Depart from me, you bloodthirsty men." And he says in Psalm 5 and 6, "Do not mix me with them. Do not count me with them." Psalm 26 and 9. And in Psalms 139 and 19. Dawid knows there's a difference between Yahweh's seed and Hasatan's seed. Yahweh's seed is from the word of life. Hasatan's seed is from the blood of death. The 613 commandments are founded on blood sacrifices. Yahweh Shua gave us 2 laws, 2 commandments: to love him and to love his image. And this is a love of the water of life. Hasatan's seed loves blood. Even go back to Jasher 9 and 29. When Nimrod had the Tower of Babel built, what did they do? When they got to the top of it, they shot arrows to heaven. And what did Yahweh do? Those arrows came back with blood on them. They shot those arrows into the 2 original creatures that Yahweh killed and skinned for Adam and Eve. Revelations 13 and 8. Revelation, and I'm not going to have time to finish, of course, as I always seem to run out. And it reads, "All who live on the earth will worship him, whose name have not been written in the book of life of the Lamb, slain from the foundation of the world." Yahweh Shua, if your name's not written in the book of life, you're going to have the image of the Hasatan, and you're going to receive him. And in Revelation 5 and 6, the same thing. 5 and 6. And it reads, "And I looked, and behold, in the middle of the throne and on the 4 living creatures, and in the middle of the elders stood a lamb as though it had been slain, having 7 horns and 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of Yahweh sent out into all the earth." That leads us to next week's topic. We're going to talk about what you call the 7 churches. But this is the Kahalot Sheba, the 7 assemblies. We're going to talk about that next week. I'm going to finish up with this, and we're going to go into what you call the 7 churches, the 7 assemblies, because this greater love story leads into the 7 assemblies. Until then, Yahonatan Dawid with you. Shalom Aleichem. Peace be on you.